Well, today we are going to make some caramel apples for the dolls. Stay tuned and see how fun and easy this project is. All right, if you've watched very many of my clay food videos on this channel or on my other channel, you know that I am a firm believer in having the reference of what you're looking to make in miniature or in doll size in front of you in real size, if at all possible. If you can't, then get some photos, search some photos online. You need a reference. And having the real thing in front of you is nice because you can look at it from all sides. So I picked up this caramel apple, it's already falling apart, at the grocery store the other day. And I'm going to avoid having the little lines. This one was, this was shoved up against it. It was shoved into a plastic container and it was sold in the produce department. But this gives me an idea of a size that I can look at. It gives me an idea of the color and the shape. And it's just good reference. I can turn it around. I can say, okay, yeah, the caramel makes a little foot at the bottom. It goes up the stick a little ways. Okay, and we don't see any of the apple on the outside of this one. And that's something I'm going to do on my doll size one. Now, because we're only going to see the clay on the outside, I'm going to use an inexpensive clay on the inside. If you're going to do very much in the way of doll food modeling, although I don't use this on my Dollhouse Miniature channel for foods, I do use this particular product a lot when it comes to doll size because our foods are so much bigger than I work with on the other channel. This is Original Sculpey. And I forget how much I paid for this. I think it was about $12 or $16, but this is almost 2 pounds of clay. So ounce by ounce, it's a lot cheaper than those little bits you get, the little containers you get at the store, in the craft store, that we all buy for our colors. And when you're just using white clay, this is fine. It is much softer than even the Sculpey 3. It's a very soft clay, so it doesn't have a fine finish, but I use it a lot for making things like the apple that's going to go in the middle. We're not going to see this. There's no reason to use a big lump of my colored clay that costs a lot more per ounce than this. So I'm going to make a ball, and then I'm going to see how big my ball of clay turned out to be. I'm aiming for, okay, this is a little too big because I want it around 7/8 of an inch to an inch. Now, caramel apples come in all sizes. I've seen much bigger ones, and I've seen a few, not very many smaller ones, but I've seen many really big ones in the fancy stores. I'm not going to make a huge caramel apples. I'm going to make them, that's still even a little too big, so I'm going to make one on camera, and then I'm going to form a few more apple, we'll call them blanks, that I can bake off at the same time. Let's get a little smaller. That's probably, there. Now we're just about at an inch. So I'm going to roll that into a ball. And then if you saw my candy video last week, we're going to do something very similar. We're going to take TLS, Transparent Liquid Sculpey, and we're going to take just a plain wooden toothpick. Now this step, dipping it in the Sculpey, in the liquid Sculpey, is optional, but I find it's just a lot better because the toothpick will stick better. This liquid clay works kind of like a glue, and in this case, and it allows this to really bond with the ball of clay. So off camera, I'm going to make 2 or 3 more balls like this with the toothpick in. Then I'm going to bake those. Since that's about an inch, that's going to take probably 45 minutes to an hour at 275. I'm probably going to actually put the temperature down to 250 and bake it for about an hour, just to make sure it bakes all the way through the clay, so all of the clay is cured. And then when that's done and cooled, I'll come back and we'll put some caramel topping on it. Alright, these are all baked and cooled, so now it's time to put a caramel coating on them. And for that I have some Fimo Soft and Caramel. And I've actually mixed it with just a tiny bit of translucent clay, just enough to soften it up, because even the Fimo Soft is much more difficult to work with than the Sculpey 3. So I've done that, and I've got myself a wad here of that, and I'm going to get a little bit of our TLS, our translucent liquid Sculpey. I'm going to put a gob of that there, because we're going to need that. Now I'm going to cut a chunk of this clay off, and I'm going to roll this out. And now, of course, it's soft, it's really sticky. And that's fine, it'll stick better. And I'm not rolling it out to a specific thickness, I'm just getting it rolled out enough that I think it will cover nicely and not be too bulky. Now, since we're never going to see the apple part of that, that's why this is why we use the white clay. And I'm using my finger, I'm just coating the outside of this baked clay with our TLS. This is going to act as a glue, just like it glues the wood pick in. It is going to help glue that clay on to the baked clay. Because fresh clay doesn't like to stick to baked clay that well, but if you put some TLS on there, it'll stick just fine. So we're going to put this out, we're going to put this down over the toothpick, kind of push it up, wipe as much of that TLS off your fingers as you can, otherwise you are going to really stick. If you find you're still sticking, I have a container of cornstarch over here, and I just use a makeup brush to apply it. And that will make my fingers so they're not so sticky. Now, cut off the excess, because we want to get rid of as many of these wrinkles as we can. And try not to, by using the cornstarch, it helps to not leave fingerprints. You're going to try not to leave too many fingerprints. I'm cutting off all the extra bulk. And don't worry if it doesn't quite meet on the bottom, we're going to fix that yet. Kind of snug it up against the stick. I'm going to take a really small ball of clay. It's about that much. I've got clay all over the place. And I'm going to, come on. See, it's, okay, that was really sticky and it stuck to my roller. Get a little more. There we go. Okay, come on, come off of there. And it doesn't have to be perfectly round. Tip that just so you get just a little bit of the TLS on the bottom. And then we'll use the knife. And there we go. We're going to bake that on a piece of parchment paper on our paper plate for probably about 10 minutes so that everything is cured. I'll do the other one off camera. I've already done a couple. And when these are cured and cooled, I'll come back and we'll put a clear finish on to make it look a little more appetizing. All right, our caramel apples are baked and cooled. And what I've got here is just some satin Mod Podge that I've poured out. It's easier to work when it's poured out. And I'm just going to coat the outside of these. So I'm going to give both of these, as well as the two I made off camera, a good coat of satin Mod Podge, and I'm going to let that dry until it's nice and clear. And then I'll come back and we'll trim the tops, the tip of the sticks off, and I'll show you how they look with the dolls. All right, our Mod Podge is all dry and they are ready to go, except for trimming the sticks off a little bit. I'm going to trim them off, I think, right about there. Now, again, on this project, you can measure this if you want to make them all exactly the same. I mean, you could also, I've seen chocolate covered apples, if you want to add nuts to the bottom, just take some like very light beige clay, roll it out, and then a very thin coat of a brown, and then chop it up and bake it. But we have 4 caramel apples for the dolls. I am going to take some photos of these with, hopefully with the dolls, and maybe with, oh, still some wet Mod Podge there, with the real one too, so you can see how they look together. But I love how these came out. The perfect fall treat for the dolls. Let me know if you make this project. I'd love to see pictures of yours. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, leave me a comment. If you enjoy my content, I'd love it if you'd subscribe and hit the notification bell so you know when I put up a new video. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.